Not a very easy timing, but I'm very happy to see that there is a huge participation. And so I want to thank personally also the president, and later she will address Simona, and also Zala for all the work that we have done together in these weeks in order to make this event possible. Today we chose as a title of this event, the Global Common Challenges of the Center-Right. And I think we will try to tackle this topic from different point of view. As you can see on my left and on my right, I have representatives from different continents, from Europe to Africa to Asia. And as you know, the center-right meaning in this continent obviously is completely different. So I think that what will be very interesting today is to hear from them also what is their perception, what are the main challenges, and also more in general, you know, how the young people are, what are the topics that for the young people more it's important for election. We will talk about the impact of new technologies. We will talk about how to better structure our youth movement and our political parties. So I think that we will have the opportunity today to hear experiences from completely different worlds, and I hope that we will leave the room today with more knowledge and to have the possibility also to have another event very soon during the next maybe CDI meeting to further develop this topic. I would now give the introductory, say, remarks to two very important speakers that send us a video. And I would also maybe want to start projecting the first from José María Aznar, that is the honorary president of CDI and former Prime Minister of Spain.
For me, it's a very special pleasure to participate in this meeting, and I can express gratitude to the President National, my good friend Andrés Pastrana. And I express to all of you my wish, my sincere wish that you have a very great success in this meeting, discussing things that are important for the organization, things that are important for the center-right, and things that are important for the world. I think you want to invite you to talking especially about to reinforce or recover our organization, our parties. Because one of the problems that the center-right today in the world is not the same in every country. But one of the problems is the weaknesses of organizations. The democracy, liberal system, open societies needed strong parties, because strong parties finally means strong institutions. And strong institutions means as well better countries, better competitiveness, and better world. And if you can problems with our parties, we must make an effort to recreate the party, or refound the party, and reinforce the solid basis of the party, territorially in the country, and in terms of values and principles, to establish a very clear project to face the problems of the world today. Second, we must to reinforce our parties, our organizations ideologically. This is extremely important because the world even in moments of confusion. And we must to be very clear, to express very clear which are our ideas, feelings, expectations, goals for the people, especially for the young people. And we know that we live in a world where, especially in a geopolitical terms, defined for a competition, a big competition And this big competition between the Western world, especially US and China, must to be define our position. And our position must to be very clear in favor of the defense of the values that forge historically the Western world. That is freedom, is democracy, is free market, is tolerance, it's equality, it's respect for the rules, it's the rule of law, it's diversity, it's tolerance. This is our values. We must to defend our values, to express in every country and every moment that without these values, without these principles, we are winners. We are more winners than the rest. And there is no truth that authoritarian or totalitarian regime means an advantage respect democratic regimes. No, it's the strong of democracy, the strong of freedom, the strong of the strong liberty that finally will prevail. The second, all the expansion of the artificial intelligence, that this is a challenge for the human being, a challenge for all of us. Artificial intelligence means the transformation of the total parameters that we know so far in terms of political, economically, social, and cultural coexistence. We must reflect about this and just based in a solid principles and values that establish a solid possibility to coexist in our society, a solid convictions that the machines as artificial intelligence act a tool in our hands, not vice versa, is very extremely important. I invite you to reflect about this question, but I am sure that there is a lot of more other things that are worthy of to debate, to speak, and to talk. And I wish finally all the best, and I express my best wishes for all of you. Thank you very much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for inviting me to speak at the...
You spoiled already the second video, but obviously thank you very much to President Aznar for his contribution, and I think it touched the three main topics of this discussion that are about, we need strong institutions, so how can we better structure in our political parties? The second one was ideology, so we will talk about this as well, and also technology. Technology will have a huge impact. So the next contribution is by the former Prime Minister of Slovakia and now President of the Wilfred Martens Center, that is the think tank of the EPP. We have also our Secretary General of IDC-CDI, that is also a founder and also member of the board. And President Zurinda also sent us a contribution, so I will ask one to start with the contribution.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for inviting me to speak at the Youth Centrist Democratic International. Your meeting is taking place in a very, very stunning ambience of Bled Lake in Slovenia. I'm sorry I couldn't join you in person because of my duties in Brussels, but thanks to the technologies, I can relate to you through this video message. The umbrella topic of the CDI General Assembly meeting is the global challenges and their impact on the center-right in the light of the upcoming European elections 2024. I have to say that in a fast evolving environment, the challenges in Europe have become more and more multidimensional and complex. The landscape is increasingly being shaped by the international and interregional character of challenges that Europe is currently facing. And this has become more evident than ever before. Recent developments, such as the COVID-19 pandemic or Russia's war against Ukraine, have profoundly called into question the EU's foreign policy and transformed the way we look at our security and policy response. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine is by far the greatest challenge the EU is currently facing. Alongside the COVID-19 pandemic, recurring security threats have tested Europe's capacity for cooperation and collective action, and have also reminded us that contemporary challenges almost always transcend national borders. Beyond the war, the key issues affecting Europe's security range from big shifts in geopolitics to constant hybrid threats to climate change. Social media has brought unprecedented possibilities for getting information, but also spreading disinformation, propaganda, and hatred, which leads to huge polarization in our democracies and societies. All these factors, alongside the consequences of digitalization, the culture wars, the growing gap between rich and poor, social division, are becoming ever greater challenges to democracy, increasingly failing under pressure. My dear friends, there are many challenges that you, young European citizens, are facing too. One of your most concerns is the rise of cost of living, which has an eminent impact on your education, as many young people cannot get enough family support because their families are also experiencing difficulties. As I pointed out in the beginning, the times we are living in are very difficult and challenges are very complex. Therefore, we need a clear vision of what needs to be done in the near future to be more resilient and better prepared for other possible shocks. The European People's Party has always played a crucial role in times of crisis, with a great focus on European citizens, their concerns, and their interests. And I am convinced that this focus will continue. Therefore, we at the Martin Center have been developing strategic policy documents on how the EU should be transformed to act effectively and stronger, to defend itself and other nations who share common values. We are convinced that we should proceed with the final step of European integration, to the completion of the EU into a form of an authentic federation. It means a political union built and developed on the consistent implementation of the principle of subsidiarity. We need to strive for a principle of sustainability. We must find a proper balance between present and future necessities. and ensure fairness between generations. Sustainability, therefore, must be the core guiding principle of Christian Democrat and conservative action across all policy areas. We see that sustainability is endangered in a few areas on which we have focused in our recent strategic policy initiatives called 7Ds. The first is defense. And the question, how can we as Europeans ensure the defense of our continent, at least conventionally? The second is that. How can we ensure that sustainability when confronted with permanently increasing private and public debt level globally? The next is digitalization. How can we fully participate in the digital revolution while preserving our freedom as individuals and societies? Demography. How can European societies stay dynamic and fairly balance burdens in rapidly aging societies? Democracy. How can Europe counter authoritarian attacks on our representative democracy? Decarbonization. How to go to net zero emissions while preserving energy security, maintaining a vibrant economy, and maintaining real transition. Last but not least, decarbonization. How to prepare our economies to be ready to a world where the leading paradigm is no longer low cost by any means, but rather security. Dear friends, we at the Martin Center are working on the reflection process to identify options and concrete proposals for political action on the European level for the next legislature, 2024-2029, in the earlier mentioned areas. We are convinced that they are also policy areas in which the European People's Party identifies its core competencies as a political force. My dear friends, as the kick-offer to this panel discussion, I hope I have provided you with some food for thought. I wish you a very inspiring discussion and thank you for your attention.
For sure, a lot of food for thought from President Dzurinda that in particular addressed the importance of trying to find this balance between present and future challenges. And I really also like the idea to framing around the sustainability. So I think also this will be a topic that we will address in our conversation. Before to start and introducing the speakers, I would like to give the floor to Simona Purcat, the president of the Slovenian Democratic Youth, that I thanked before for hosting us today. So I would like to invite her here on the stage and to give us like a welcome remarks. Please, Simona, the floor is yours.
Dear guests, welcome to Slovenia. Welcome to beautiful Bled. It is a great pleasure and an honor to host today's important event. It is very important that young people from the center-right connect and share opinions and experiences. Among us, I welcome today's speakers, Zala Tomašić from Slovenia, Carlo Giacomo Agrisani from Spain. Kim Long Cheng from Cambodia. Jonas Mulato from Angola. It is with great pleasure that I also welcome the president of IDC-CDI and the moderator of today's event, Riccardo Pozzi, to which I give the floor. I wish you the most pleasant and productive day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mona, also for introducing us. So I would start immediately from Zala Tomasic, that is the International Secretary of SDM. And I would like maybe to start asking her, like, which are the main challenges for the center-right in Europe? We had a meeting this morning, very interesting, where some of the people from your party also said, for example, that most of the time the center-right has the best programs, but not only the best PR comparing to the socialists, or the importance of trying to find a definition of center-right nowadays in Europe. So I will give you the floor and ask you which are the main challenges.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a very interesting question that doesn't come with a short answer. But I'll try to provide my insights on it. So center-right values encompass important pillars such as family, marriage, love for our own country, democracy, liberty, entrepreneurship. And I think these are all the values that are essential for the smooth functioning of our society. And without them, with the lack of the center-right values, we create a void in our society. We got to be careful, because if we do create it, and I think that has happened in Europe, someone else is going to step in and fill that void if it's not us. And two of the main suspects for that is either the progressive. I don't like to use that term because that implies progress, which is not necessarily the case here, but for the lack of a better word, I'm going to say progressive values that the left promotes. So that is one option to fill this void if we step out. And the other one that I think it's not discussed as much as it should be is also the extreme right. And then this increased polarization, this creates kind of a vicious cycle of the extreme left or the left and then the extreme right that keep on competing. And the loser out of this battle is center right and our values and our traditions. But the question arises, why does this happen and how we can prevent it? And I think that why we're perhaps not losing on the center-right values, but why are people afraid to publicly support them, is the vilification of the center-right. And what do I mean by that? There's a couple things. I think one, you probably notice when you talk to people that whenever we discuss the left, they're always going to differentiate between the extreme left, the left, and the center left. Even though nowadays we kind of use the word center to label all of the left. But when we discuss the center right, everything is boxed in together. The extreme right, the center right, the right, everything is put in the same basket. And this might seem as a very trivial manipulation of the language, but it sets an important precedence and a starting point when we discuss political ideologies, because we immediately shift the balance. We immediately put the left to the center, and then the right is seen as the extreme one. So that poses a big problem. And the other thing that I mean by one of the challenges is the vilification of the center-right, is that whenever you have a group of people discussing political ideologies, it's always going to be the one supporting center-right seen as the one who has to defend their own beliefs. Like, you have to justify why do you believe in the center-right values. I'm sure that you've heard like conversations even among friends, and you always get the question, but how can you support capitalism or something when it creates such big discrepancies between the poor and the rich? And very rarely you hear questions, how can you support socialist or communist systems that have resulted in violations of human rights. People are still affected by those systems, and they resulted in the killings of millions of people. So we're always put on the defensive lines, and we always have to justify our beliefs. And also, I think that creates a sense, especially among young people, I see it, that they're afraid to speak out and publicly support the center-right because they're seen as regressive, even though that's not the case at all. And especially in today's world with social media, this is very clearly observed with influencers, right? There are many influencers that believe in our values, that share our values, that are on the center-right, but they're afraid to publicly say that because they are immediately, if we say like in this area of cancel culture, canceled. But on the other side, you have a bunch of the left influencers that can say that are willing to step forward and talk about their political beliefs. And the other thing that also I see as a challenge of the center-right is what Ricardo already mentioned, but is that center-right parties tend to have great programs, strong programs that would benefit all the people. And the thing with center-right is that whenever we're in the government, we also implement these programs. But we're really, really bad at communicating them. Versus the left, we're lucky if they even have a program, but even if they do have it, it's usually not as great as ours. Or even if it is a decent program, they don't know how to implement it or what to do with them. But they're absolutely fantastic at appealing to the masses. They have great marketing skills. And here, there's definitely something we need to work on. And not just that, I already spoke a little bit about how we're vilified and how perhaps we don't communicate our programs very clearly. But another thing that the left is so good at is redefining the issues. They define all the issues and we're just reacting to them. And they're even good at stealing our issues. I like to give environmental conservation as one of the examples. Environmental conservation should theoretically be an issue of the center-right. It's about conservatism. And when you look at historically, at least in the US, the two presidents that did, I would say, the most for environmental conservation were both Republicans. That was President Nixon, who created the Environmental Protection Agency, and President Theodore Roosevelt, a couple decades before Nixon, who actually established new national parks and did great things for the forestry protection. But nowadays, when you talk to people, they have the sense that center-right doesn't care about environmentalism, that we don't care about the preserving of our environment. And that is simply because the left stole the issue and redefined it so that it fits into their terms. And we're bad at communicating that all our programs tend to include issues such as the protection of the environment. But I don't wanna conclude on a pessimistic note. So I am an optimist, and I do believe that the center-right values are here to persevere. We just have to step together and be louder and make our voices heard. And we do need to improve the communication that we have on how to present our issues. And I think, at least for Europe, this is a great opportunity as we have the European election next year. And in this year, we can really work on that.
Thank you very much, Zara. And I'm very, very happy that you close also your intervention with an optimistic side, but also like I think would be very interesting later also to ask our participants about some of the topics you touched, for example, the fact that, yes, the environmental issues that are topics that are very important for our generation, important for young people, most of the time are considered like topics from the left. When I totally agree with you, it's not like this. In many of our political programs, we have this as a pillar. but maybe because of a PR or for other reasons that also would be also interesting to maybe expand and talk later, this is just something that is considered a leftist part of their topic. So I think this is something that we have to more develop, and especially in the European Union, this is a topic that is very sensitive. And as you said, we will have European election in 1 year. I think that the youth of the center right has to find a way in order to reappropriate themselves of these topics. Mm-hmm. But let's now give the floor to another speaker that is coming from a different continent, Africa. And I want, obviously, thanks particularly Jonas for being here with us. I know it was not easy to travel from Angola. I was recently in Angola, and I really admire what they are doing in UNITA. You have to see how many youth are involved in the party, and really I was part of a few rallies during the last election, and the participation of young people was really amazing. And there I would like to touch maybe what happened in the last election, and also from your perspective, how like electoral frauds, for example, are impacting, you know, the result of the election, and also the participation of young people. That's sometimes, you know, they feel frustrated when they see that for different reasons they are not able to be in power. And before we were talking also about some scientific studies, for example, one from the economic intelligence, who said that there is less democracy where the left is in power in Africa. So maybe this is something that can be food for thought in our discussion. And Jonas, I will give you the floor, and I would really like to hear your opinion on this.
Thank you, Ricardo. First of all, I would like to send the greetings from UNITA to all of you, and from President Adalberto Costa Jr. Before I answer your question, I would like to address what Sala said and reinforce the importance of environment, and it's one of our topics in the center right. And I think that it is a task that we have to do all together. If not, it will not work. Last elections in August in Angola, August 22, once again, we were victim of fraud. And we think that we have to prepare the people to fight against this. We understand that the left limit the involvement of people in education. They limit the youth in education. Today, we have a high level of people who are not educated, and they use that against the democracy. They use that against the rule of law. And this is the main reason that the fraud constantly occur in our continent. As you said, yes, we have a study from the economy intelligence that was conducted in 2022. And 3 of the countries with the lowest score in Africa are Mozambique, Angola, and Guinea. Those 3 countries are led by leftists or socialists that at the past were communist, and today they say that they are socialist, but we call them communal capitalist, that they are only interested in power and money. But they have the legitimacy from some of the most powerful countries around the world. And we think that Centrist Democratic International have to present resolutions appealing those nations to position themselves in favor of the people instead of being in favor of commercial interests. And in general, this is it. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonas. And I think also like platform like the Youth of CDI are also here for this to support our members in order to raise their voice around the globe. And I think the case of UNITA was like this because, you know, like a delegation of CDI was there with you during the election, and also after the election we took a strong stand, and we will continue to do so. Our regional coordinator Alberto is here, and I think this should be the role of CDI, and especially as a youth, we can like help you in order to give more visibility to the fights that you are conducting in Angola. The next speaker is a good friend from Spain, Carlo Angrisano, that is also coming from a very tough period. They have regional elections in Spain, and Carlo is the Secretary General of the Nuevas Generaciones, that is the youth movement of Partido Popular. And it's a very, very large movement, and they have many candidates also at the regional election. That's why Carlo is running around the country for the last 15-20 days in order to try to support all the youth that are in the competition. And what I would like to ask Carlo also, because I know he has a deep knowledge also from South America, is first of all, what about new technologies? So how do you see the impact of new technologies in the youth fight for freedom, democracy? And at the same time, recently you shared with me a very interesting map regarding South America. And in this map, you see colors, blue and red. And if few years ago, basically, you know, there was a quite a balance in the continent. Now, almost all the countries in this map are red. So from your perspective, I would be also here, what do you think is happening there, and what are the challenges of the youth there as well?
Well, thank you very much, Ricardo, for inviting me here. And also thank you, Simona and Sala, for having organized this event here with the attendance of many of your members. And I want to start, first of all, if you allow me, Ricardo, sending a message to our Slovenian friends of sympathy with everything that has happened this week here in Slovenia, and the government decision not to hold the Remembrance Day of Communist Violence on the 17th of May. I believe this is shameful. I believe that we should always remember what happened in Slovenia under communist regime. The 17th of May is a date to remember one of the many massacres held by communists here in Slovenia, but also all around Europe. Communist violence has to be remembered. I think that this is also related to the topic we are discussing today. And if sometimes we, young people believing in center-right values, are afraid of saying that we are conservative, that we believe in the center-right, I really believe it should be the other way around. It should be the communists that have to be ashamed of being communists. It has to be the socialists, the social democrats, however they want to be called here in Slovenia or elsewhere in Europe. They have to acknowledge what happened in the last century and in the 19th century, because the communist ideology is responsible for the death of more than 100 million people. So having said that as starters, we have many challenges to tackle, and we have to understand why center-right has become less appealing to young people. Because in the past, actually, center-right, Christian Democrats were movements, political parties, basically led by young people. And it was the young people that was fighting for the core values of center-right: human dignity, freedom of speech, rule of law, and so on and so forth. And now we are seeing in this 21st century a new wave of socialism, as you said, that is unraveling in Latin America with great strength, unfortunately, supported on drug dealing landlords and other illegal activities that support economically the funding of campaigns in Latin America, that are also supported by corrupt and authoritarian politicians that pump money into campaigns, so that the whole continent will eventually fall under socialism and communism. So Latin America is right now at risk of becoming the new USSR of the 21st century. And this should be of extreme importance in the agenda of democratic countries from the West, because Latin America belongs culturally to the West. It is a continent that speaks Spanish or Portuguese or English or French, which are all European languages. It is a Christian continent that is the common religion here in Europe and in North America. So it is a continent where the values are very, very similar to the European values, to the Western values. They are European values and they are Western values. So we should feel for them and we should be there to help them. And we see how in the European institutions, for example, the left is helping to whitewash all these undemocratic authoritarian regimes. And this should be on our agenda, on the center-right agenda. So also the young people should be pushing for this, especially here in the countries that come from a communist regime that have managed to achieve democracy. You know what it means to get democracy, to get your freedom and your liberty. So having this experience in Europe, we can export this good experience instead of exporting old experiences of death and communism. And in the middle of all these fight, because one thing is to talk and say that we will win elections and help our political family overseas to win elections also there. And the other thing is, okay, talking about concrete ideas. And definitely AI has become a technology that is already influencing the world and our societies, and especially young people, because we are all attached to our smartphones, to our laptops, to our wearables, and so on and so forth. And AI is shaping the world. We have seen how ChatGPT appeared this year to change dramatically camps like education, which is a very important field where the center-right is failing big time, because most of the teachers come from the left in most of our European countries, and they are shaping the mindset of young people. But this is also an opportunity. It is an opportunity because AI technologies allow us from the security of our home to campaign online, to be there, to change how our network works. You see now with digitalization, this panel is being broadcasted to all over the world, and dozens of people can connect now, and hundreds and thousands can watch this panel later on. So we need to understand how to use better these tools. We need to understand how also the bad guys will use AI, because this means also more state control, because they will have better tools to control people, to control how we move, what we think, what we are looking for on Google. So this opens a whole set of discussions on policy, on particularly privacy, copyright, and other policies that we need to discuss at the moment, because it will shape our economy, it will shape the labor, and we face also many challenges, as how many people will be unemployed because of AI tools, but how many people can we give unemployment thanks to the AI tools? We need to understand how to balance the arrival of this new technology without being scared of using these new technologies, because this will be eventually the speech of the left. This will be also an excuse on more state control, because the AI will take away some jobs, so we need more taxes, we need more government spending, and this means at the end of the day, more state control. And this is the opposite of center-right, because we believe in individual freedom, and we believe that everybody should be responsible also for their lives, with the minimal help of the state to prevent extreme situations. But we cannot allow the state to keep growing, because we have also some financial issues. So just to wrap up everything, because I don't want to take too much time, because we are living in this period where the human mind cannot concentrate on someone's speech for more than a minute and a half, and I think that I have surpassed this time a long time ago now. I also want to talk about how technology can become a flag of Western values. During the Cold War, the space race was crucial to beating the communist regimes, the USSR. We went to the moon, and now we are going back to the moon. And I think that this is a strong message. We stopped going to the moon when there was no competition between the Western world and the former Soviet republics, because we thought that we already won the race for freedom, for democracy, and we thought that it was the end of history. The last years have proven it was not the end of history, and being at the top of the race in the technological development also means the space race that is coming again. And I'm very happy to see that in the United States, the Artemis missions will take human people again to the moon. I think that this is what we can achieve through democracy, through rule of law, amazing things, amazing technological advancements that will benefit all of us. And this is through a market economy, through democracy, and not through communism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlo. I think you tackled some of the main challenges for the youth of the center-right, but not only for youth in general, but I think challenges that it's very important we start tackling now. You talk about artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. Recently, the father of ChatGPT warned all of us, saying that, you know, the use of this artificial intelligence can be, you know, also can damage also our societies. So I think these are topics that we have to start addressing now, in order not to lose once again this towards the leftists. Now, closing the first round of discussion, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Dr. Kim Long Cheng, that is from Cambodia, and he is Executive Vice President of one of the most important think tank in the area, that is the Asian Vision Institute. And I think, you know, that during like the years, this think tank is conducting many studies, and among which I think you also address the importance of demography. We listened yesterday, one of the members of the executive committee, Prime Minister Plenković, he stressed the importance for our society about demography. And also President Aznar, in his introductory video, told us that if we want to have strong democracy, we need also to have strong parties. So also would be interesting from you to hear how to structure better our parties, and what is the experience of, you know, Asia and Cambodia on it.
First of all, thank you so much. And I'd like to thank the CDI, the Slovenian Democratic Youth, and also CDI Youth, and everyone here. And I'd like to thank my colleagues on the panel, and also the moderator, Dr. Ricardo Jose. Well, normally, you know, it happens that I speak the last among all the panelists, and it's the opportunity, the leverage I can have. But I cannot summarize all the points when we have received a lot of food for thoughts. The last part to do is the food for action. For Asia, it's quite unique in the way that, you know, demography is a dividend I give you an example of the Cambodian population. We are a very young population, a young country. Our country is very old, but our population is very young. And then I would like to link that to technology. You use AI, the use of technology in a young society would be very different from using technology in an aging or an aged society. Many countries in Europe are experiencing or are sliding into that aging and aged society. But we can benefit from the use of technology, AI, artificial intelligence, and also those, learning, deep learning from that for the use in supporting the center-right political parties. There has been two main challenges that I can think of, that the topic of our discussions today is broad, and we cannot put all of those in a single on a plate and then digest them all. But two challenges. One is with regard to the democratic challenge, and that is called the structural challenge. The changing of the landscape and the dynamics of population is around the world. And then with the very fast movement toward aging and aged society, let alone those countries in my continent, in Asia. Vietnam is also experiencing that. South Korea is moving toward that, following the same style of Japanese society that we have seen also in. And in this way, it is quite difficult sometimes, to realize a high turnout rate, or we call it participant rate in the election process. We have seen many countries have been experiencing the challenges, and it is one of the biggest challenges we have seen so far. Cambodia is quite fortunate. As I said, last year we conducted the commune election, and the turnout rate was 81.8, or let's say 82%, which can be hard to achieve in many countries. In this regard, I would like to link to the second challenge, which is the technical challenge. The technical challenge is about how to balance out and how to really leverage the balance between party policy and the party strategies. Many political parties, especially those in the center right, have brilliant, beautiful, attractive policy that every electorate voters want to vote for. However, the challenge remain to be addressed is to how to calibrate the strategy and approaches, given the fact that one thing, the arrival, the advance of technology, AI, whatever, digital, social media technology, all of those available at hand, one click, and I can have 200 channels in my mobile phone and I can access anytime. But then how could you reach out to those, people 60s and above in countries, less developed than in the other part of the world, for example, like in Europe. So we need the calibration of the strategies and approaches to reach out in order to, maximize the potentiality of the center-right political parties, which I think it's very important. But the last question is, for whom do you introduce and implement those strategies for? What is the strategic compass and also the parameters that you draw the line between winning in the election process? You win for the people, you win for the party, or you win for the country? I'd like to end it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kilom. You left us with the question that I would like to pass also to the floor, and also now to open the Q&A section and ask if someone wants to take the floor and pose a question to our to our speakers. One has a microphone, so if there is any questions from the public. The first one is always shy. Good.
Hello, is this on? Right. So hi, I'm Andrei from the People's Party. I was kindly invited here by my colleagues from SDM. I would like to ask a question for Mr. Cheng. So in Europe, we have in youth politics, we have great regional organizations. We have YEP, we have European Democratic Students, and so on. And this has helped a lot towards European integration, better representation of youth politics in Europe, in the EPP as well. And so I would like to ask, so in the Asian area, so because we don't really you know, have a lot of information going through. So if you could you know, maybe present a bit, you know, if there are any how does it work in that area, because there's a very different situation, right? You have like countries that are democratic, countries that are authoritarian. How do youth movements and political youth movements interact within ASEAN, or is it more closed off because of the different natures and lack of maybe common ideological foundation? And I'm sorry if it's a bit off topic, but I would like to, you know, to take the opportunity. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, I would maybe collect a few more questions if you have some. Ramin, first row.
My name is Ramin Mamadov. I come from Azerbaijan. I represent the New Azerbaijan Party here. Actually, we touched at different topics regarding the global challenges and the youth approach on its digitalization, democracy, the others topics. But the one topic is I think that it's very important today, not only for the youth, especially the center-right youth, but in global manner, it's dealing with the fake news. So we are representing of the political parties and political groups, and it's very interesting to me. We have the representatives from different continents, as you, Mr. Chair, mentioned in the beginning of the panel. Yesterday, we have some kind of the dealing with the fake news. For example, I'm not going deeply to the original conflicts, but my colleague from Armenia tried to mislead the CDI community by providing the fake news. What I mean the fake news, we have a peace treaty negotiation on the other hand with the government, and we have the opposition, let's kind of reaction on this peace treaty. We do not exactly what kind of the intention opposition of Armenia would like to demonstrate. But the fake news, it's not the only challenges in the regional manner. I think that it's across the national borders. It's one of the topics we have to discuss, not only in framework of the CDI, but the global manner. And we'd like to know how the representatives from the different continents deal with the fake news in terms of the domestic politics and international relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramin. There is another question, I think, down there. No? Okay. So we will start from the first question that was directed to Mr. Kim Long about, you know, regionals in Asia, in particular youth movement. If you can maybe give us more information about that.
Thank you so much. Let's scale it down a little bit to Southeast Asia, 10 countries. The association of 10 countries. Cambodia is a member. We joined that in 1999. Now, about the youth movement. Youth movement is guided by the principle of democracies and political system in different 10 countries. But at the center of the region, we have established numerous initiatives and programs allowing youth, you know, to engage. Recently, for example, in Jakarta, this year, Indonesia is chair of ASEAN. And this, there was a, we call it Parliament and Government interface meeting, and they released a new initiative in their report about, we call it Women, Youth and Security Program, that put that aside, how youth have the democratic space in managing and also, developing themselves in this regard, to promote their voice, to have their voice heard. I take an example of a country in the Philippines. Last year, the Philippines was conducting the parliamentary election, and youth was, in the Philippines was benefiting from the advancement of technology, I have said, and the freedom of expression in Southeast Asia as a whole is highly regarded as, of course, you cannot compare that to Europe, but the space and the freedom of expressions and also freedom of movement, freedom of, organizations among themselves to express their voice and to have their voice heard to policymakers, lawmakers, have been highly relevant and highly regarded in this. In that election, we have seen that thousands of groups of youth, express their voice to the media platforms. And some of them, without the request of the political candidates, they gather themselves and gather the political support to support the political candidate. Looking back to another major democracy in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, it's unfortunate that we don't have representative from Indonesia. The same thing is true. I'd like to end there, but I'd like to talk about Cambodia with the freedom of expression as well. We have around 4,000 media outlets, including those owned by foreign companies or foreign, organizations. And we have a large and expanded space to express in this regard as well. We have not only that, printed medias, social medias, radios. I cannot talk much about other countries because they have a different political system. I mean, nearby to Cambodia. But on a large space, we have seen a prosperous society bolstered by the, expanded youth space in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kilong. I will ask Jonas, for example, to address the second question that was about fake news. Was also this part of your campaign, and how do you see, this as a challenge for especially for the youth around in Angola and more in general?
Yes, we fought against fake news on the past elections. They controlled the mass media, the party who rules the country. They control mass media because they have nationalized all channels. So as Ricardo saw in Angola, most of the youth is with us. Angola has a population of 32 million and 60% are between 18 and 25 years old. And we have an advantage right now. People don't believe on everything they say, on most of the things that the party that rules says. So when they say something, they refer to us first and they wait for what we have to say. So after that, they react. So today we have this advantage, but in general, they use a lot of fake news. And I think that the effective way to fight against fake news is to have a good strategy for communication and transparency and most of the doings that the party do. If not, it will be complicated because we saw many cases in other countries like Brazil and others, the fake news were decisive for the elections. Going back to Angola, to see that they controlled mass media, they use every institution in their favor. They used 1.8 billion for the campaign, and they conducted a fraudulent election, and they still only had like 50%, and we had 44%, still with the fraud. And today we understand that to fight against this fraud, we have to educate our people. And this is why we count with the youth of CDI to help our plan in giving education in the rural communities. And we count on Ricardo for helping us with this task. In general, I think that I addressed the fake news. Strategy of a clear communication, for me, is the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know we have already also a question that was posed through our Zoom platform, and I see that there are more hands up, so I will collect the last questions, and then I will also give the possibility to our speakers to reply. But before to do that, I cannot give the floor to Zala, because she addressed the issue of fake news already a bit in her intervention at the beginning of this topic. So Zala, the floor is yours about the fake news also.
Okay, so I don't have a solution to fake news. I'll start with that. But just to add on what's been said before, not just I agree with the communication and clear communication, but I think communication internationally, because in platforms such as this one are great for that, because I can't know what's happening in Angola. He probably doesn't know what's happening in Slovenia. We read what we read in the news, which might not always be accurate and reflect the accurate state of the country. We know that. I know, for example, when we had our presidency in Brussels, there were discussion in the European Parliament about the rule of law, which were, in my opinion, absolutely ridiculous. But when you talk to people one-on-one and explain the situation in Slovenia, they also saw it's ridiculous, despite what Politico said or the New York Times wrote. So I think just keeping up with this international cooperation and networking, and not just to meet at the events like once a year, but to keep in touch besides that, is one way to tackle the fake news. But just briefly, on just one other thing that was mentioned, I think that we're also forgetting, and it relates to fake news, that now we're not only dealing with the political actors, but we have in the 21st century a new actor that entered like the political sphere, which is the private sector, that is stronger every day. And now with the development of technology of ChatGPT, it's going to play a really important role, because someone has to program ChatGPT. And what if people ask, who should I vote in the next election? They're going to have the power, right, to influence millions of people through that. So I think that's also another thing that we should keep in mind. It's no longer just the left or right, the political actors, but we also have a very strong private sector.
Thank you very much, Lala. And I will ask maybe one to give the floor to Lilith from Armenia. She asked the floor through our platform, Zoom platform.
Hi, do you hear me, Ricardo?
Yes, I can hear you, and I see you also, Lilith.
Very good. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm happy to see you all there. I see many familiar places, and it's my pleasure to join you, although not physically, but online. I totally share the importance of the topic, but unfortunately, I have to deviate a bit, addressing the topic that was raised by the Azerbaijani colleague. And I would like, since also we are politicians, I would like to go a bit political, because it's more than 5 months when Azerbaijani self-proclaimed environmentalists blockaded the Artsakh road. And when it comes to the fake news, I think Azerbaijan is the last country to talk about the fake news, because they use it during the war, during the peaceful time. Even now, when there was also the European Parliament resolution saying that these environmentalists, the so-called environmentalists that blockaded the road for 5 months, depriving the Artsakh people, 120,000 people, people without gas, without medicine, without any humanitarian aid, and rejecting the reality, even in the European Parliament resolution, in the Hague International Court, it is fixed. It is declared that these are self-proclaimed and government-sponsored environmentalists. So when it comes to fake news, I think our colleagues from Azerbaijan should start from themselves, because unfortunately, as it is hard to admit, even during the war, they were soldiers, were the ones to record themselves the videos of torturing and mutilating the Armenian soldiers and putting themselves on the internet. And since we are coming from the region that is constantly shaken by the wars, especially in the war situation, it is very, very important to attack fake news. Unfortunately, in this 21st century, it is a bit difficult, but I think even if the young generation are rejecting the things they are doing themselves, the path is going to be very hard to tackle this issue. So I really hope they would reconsider this, and they will tackle this issue at least in the youth level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lilith, for your intervention. And also, I take also the opportunity to thank all the people that are following us through our social media channel. We are live streamed also in the CDI Instagram page. I see that there was a question back then, so maybe one, if you want to pass the mic.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Andrej Poglajan. I'm a member of the Slovenian National Council. So I'm gonna begin my question with a short story that happened to me three days ago. I was in the Italian region of Veneto in Vicenza, where they had national municipality elections, and we were waiting for the results. And I was speaking with some of their businessmen, and as you know, in Slovenia and also in Italy, we had parliamentary elections last year. So we were debating the results that happened. And I asked one of their businessmen, I said, how did you manage to change the direction of Italy, converting so much votes into a fairly new formed party of Miss Maloney? And he gave me a very funny answer. He said, like in a typical Italian English, Andrej, but what a stupid question. He said that, of course, in Italy, you have the typical loyal base of the parties, but the second part of the answer really fascinated me, is that he said in Italy, before every election, a person looks at their wallets, at their bank accounts, at the unemployment rate, at the GDP rate, and he questions himself, is it better during the current government, or would it be better if the opposed ideas would be in power? And of course, we saw a big change when it comes to the governmentship of Italy. So my question is this: how can we implement those those are really good practices? Because if the Slovenian voters would vote like this, SDS would have the constitutional majority in the parliament. How can we implement those practices into neighboring countries and all around the globe, actually? So that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Otherwise, I will start maybe from this last intervention, saying that, yes, Italians are always looking at their wallet. That's why we change many governments, because, you know, everyone wants more every time. And as I said this morning, it's becoming a problem. Like during last campaign, there were promises for, I don't know how many billions. So we will have to stop more and start work more. And we hope that this new government obviously will be able to do so. But I will maybe now give the floor to Carlo to tackle a bit again the issue of fake news and also about the last question.
Thank you, Ricardo, for the easy questions. Of course, when it comes to the economy, there was this assumption at the end of the last century that economic development would automatically enable democratic advancements, that through the prosperity of people in economic ways, no? I mean, with wealth generation, with growth, economic growth, we would also have democratic advancements. But this assumption has proven to be false, that we have some examples of undemocratic authoritarian regimes that have been able of creating prosperity and growth without democratic advancements. And this poses a big challenge to our political family, because we have been known to be the political family of growth, of the market economy defenders, and that through our governments, people's prosperity and wealth have increased. But now this is not enough to be in power, and this is not enough to have democracy. We have countries like China, where over 800 million people were out of poverty and improved their way of life without having a single democratic advancement. And this has to be taken as a challenge to our political family, to understand what are the needs of the citizens, so that they will not want to go to a more authoritarian political regime, and they will still vote for democratic political parties. And this is an open question, because I don't think that we have right now an answer. Why is democracy less appealing? Why is democracy less and less desired by the people? And we see that instead of advancing, democracy is actually facing a big crisis, because less and less democratic countries are democratic. And the second question about fake news, I believe that I have a quite unpopular opinion. We are obsessed with fact-checking. We are obsessed with the fake news. But when you look back at history, propaganda has always been there. There has been no worse propaganda than during the First and the Second World War. And today we have the means to spread information in a matter of seconds. So we have access to all the information that we need, and even if governments try to shut down the internet, this is a very complicated thing to do. So we have to embrace these technological advancements that allow us to spread information and to focus on education, so that citizens have the tools and the knowledge to make the difference between what is true and what is a lie. And if we don't focus on that, we cannot accept, because this is what the left wants, that it is the state that has to tell us what is true and what is a lie, because fact-checking societies, fact-checking agencies can soon become public agencies that have too many power in their hands, because there will be just a group of people deciding on our behalf what is true and what is false. So in that sense, I think that very my beliefs are very similar to the American ones, where freedom of speech is above everything, and you should also have this freedom of telling a lie, because when you start cutting freedom of speech, you don't know where you will end up.
Thank you very much, Carlo. We have a very, very last question, because after we will run out of time. If Juan can please give the mic to here in the first row. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, regarding the freedom of speech, that's why I wanted to put a question into this space. Andrei from the Slovenian National Assembly, I think the answer is more Elon Musk's, because you saw his history it's really interesting. When he made up Tesla, he was a genius. When he was building SpaceX, he was a genius. Now, when he bought Twitter, from the left side, you see the text 24/7. So I think the answer from our point of view, from center-right, make more babies, make more geniuses like Elon Musk. That's my point of view. Thank you.
I would say that this is the greatest question that we have in order to give the floor to our speakers for the last comment. Really, I would ask you to be like just 2-3 minutes maximum. And I would start from Jonas. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you. I think that we have to promote youth summit, let me say like that, youth seminars in general meetings between CDI. I think the youth has to participate more and share their perspectives and share the different struggles, challenges that each one of us faces on our reality. And when we share, we can find different solutions for our challenges. And all in all, thank you for the opportunity and the invitation. Thanks.
Thank you. Zala?
I want to say it's important to realize that people don't make rational political decisions. If they did, we would have center-right governments everywhere in the world, but we don't. So keep that in mind. But I'm an optimist. So I think, the center-right values will persevere. And events such as this are absolutely great to increase the international cooperation. Especially, I welcome the youth event because we are the ones that are going to have to lead the center-right in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we should do something out of this forum where we are in now, and maybe we promote a platform, a forum like this, connecting youth from CDI members or youth from any other institutions, and continue to meet, discuss. And also, as a think tanker, I'm very happy to participate and engage in the discussion as well as in the policy analysis with regard to where the dimensions of center-right stand. What are the boundaries of that? And as well as, we have heard a lot about the ambiguities, the blurriness of, different ideologies, including the center-right itself, because it is too huge. It is not because we do not know it, but because there are so many versions of the center-right itself. And in this regard, I think we should, leverage the potentiality of what we are now, and also the next generations of youth, because we are the current leaders and the future leaders in our own field. And I would like to add one more point with regard to fighting the fake news. I partly agree with him. I partly have my opinion that fake news is the antithesis of democratic value, because some people, some organizations have the intention to create confusion. But of course, even though with a percentage of correctness in that, fake news, like we say that in every hearsay, there is a truth in it. So we need to do and listen and try to find where it stands. And I think we have to fight it because it dilutes the strength of a democratic systems, while people just create confusions out of nowhere to cause turbulence in the society. But having said that, we also value and honor the space for people, not only youth, anyone in society, to talk, to express, and also to express their desire for the destiny of their country. Thank you.
Well, just as a last remark, we oftentimes talk a lot about sustainability when it comes to environmental issues, but when it comes to democracy, politics, we should also talk about sustainability. And this is getting young people involved in organizations like our political parties, and from our political parties, getting them involved in such international organizations. Because as it was brought up before, YEP, EDS are organizations that have had a key role in the past to bring democracy to Europe. And I hope that organizations like the Youth of CDI will also have a key role in promoting new young leaders that have a vision for their countries, where their countries are more democratic, have more freedoms, and eventually will be more prosperous. So thank you, Ricardo, for organizing this. Let's face the challenges with this optimistic vision, and let's change the birth rate in Europe, but eventually let's all be here accepting that we will not always agree, but we have some common values, that this is the most important thing.
So thank you very much. I will ask you a round of applause to our speakers and to the next events.